Hello, everybody. Hi, guys. It is Jillian Leslie. I am founder of Catch My Party. I'm founder of Milo Tree, which is the pop-up app to grow your social media followers. And I am host of, the Blogger Genius podcast. I wanted to pop in. Oh, and so here's the deal. I get to sit in this really unique position. I've got a bunch of businesses with my husband and partner, David. So we get to grow our own businesses. So we've grown Catch My Party into the largest party idea site on the web. And we have our little piece of technology called Milo Tree. And we have all these different business models. Plus, we coach bloggers and online entrepreneurs. So I get to see their businesses in all these different verticals and understand what they are dealing with, struggling with, that kind of thing. And also I interview all these experts from my podcast. So I really get this very interesting perspective that I call myself a business translator. I see what's working in online business today, and then I'm able to translate it so you can take those ideas, concepts, and take them into your own business and really see if they will work for you. So that's my whole goal. So I'm using something called StreamYard. There might be, I think that in order for you guys to leave comments, I think you need to, can't post comments. Okay. I think that you weirdly need to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. And that way I can see who you are. So because we're in a Facebook group, there are privacy settings. Therefore, StreamYard cannot pull in your name. It'll kind of, I think, say like person or something like that. So I'm new to the platform, but it's been highly recommended to me. And what I'm doing right now is I get these cool things where I get to say who I am, and I've got some cool stuff to share. Also, I am live streaming this to both my Facebook group, which you guys are probably all in, but also to our Milo Tree Facebook page. And I'm streaming it right now to YouTube, which is cool because I'm really starting to lean in to YouTube, which again, when you have some bandwidth, you might want to think about as well, because it's a different animal, but it's a very powerful one, especially when it comes to search. How many times now, when you've got a problem, do you immediately go to YouTube to solve it? Anything from fixing your bathtub, your drain, to social media tips, to watching your favorite, like the new music video. So I am constantly on YouTube, and it's really funny because I have a 13-year-old daughter and she's on YouTube all the time. But even my 80-year-old mom now is like, well, we went to YouTube. And I find that to be so kind of fascinating. So if my 80-year-old mom is on YouTube, then I was like, I need to be on YouTube as well. So anyway, so StreamYard is all of these cool things, but I'm still kind of learning the platform. Okay, so today, what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about my most recent podcast episode. So let's see, I'm going to try this and see what. So the first thing I want to talk about is every week, I send a kind of a cheat sheet newsletter to my list where I identify what my 4 biggest podcast takeaways are from that episode, and I email them on Sundays. And I recommend you sign up for this. You just go to bloggergenius.com, sign up, and this way you get like right directly to your inbox what I'm talking about. So you don't have to necessarily listen to that podcast episode if it's not something you're interested in, or who knows. However, you get to see like what are the biggest takeaways. So for example, today I want to talk about Pinterest and moving my screen around and how to really optimize pins. And next week, for example, I'm talking about Shopify. And you might say, well, I'm not ready to open a Shopify store. And so, but I kind of want to know a little bit about it, read my email, read my 4 takeaways, and think to yourself, oh, do I really want to dig into this? I can listen to the episode, or at least I kind of have a sense of what's happening on Shopify now. So please, right there, sign up to my 4 biggest podcast takeaways cheat sheet at bloggergenius.com. So I'm going to leave that up for just a little bit for anybody who wants to do this. And it's like, it's just a way also for you to be part of the Blogger Genius community. When we are running specials, when we are opening up our coaching group, doing WordPress workshops, all of this cool stuff, rolling out new features for MiloTree, you will know it if you join up and if you sign up. And I try to kind of share what's going on with us on this end and how, as a mom and a business owner, I'm dealing with this crazy time that we are living in. And that is one of my main pieces of advice that I share with everybody that I coach, that I talk to. Lean into this time, both in your business and kind of in your life. And what I mean by that is there a spin for your business that can somehow relate to where people are? And you know where people are because you're right there. So for example, we have Catch My Party. Guess what? People are not planning traditional parties. So how can we help people celebrate in this weird pandemic where we can't come together? So some of our biggest posts have been things like how to celebrate outside with social distancing. We just went live with a post of what kinds of foods to serve at a social distancing party. And we're highlighting all these different containers where you can have individually packaged food, because you're no longer going to have like the cake where somebody is going to actually blow their candles out on top of the cake, spreading all their germs. Like, that's just not going to happen. I don't know if that's ever coming back, to be honest with you, because now that thought is in my head and I can't unthink it. So therefore it's like, okay, well, probably you would serve cupcakes, but is there a way to serve cupcakes safely? Yeah. If you put them in individual boxes, for example, little craft boxes, those kinds of things. So we are trying to be upfront, thinking about where people are. And again, using my own anxieties, my own experiences to help inform my blog posts, because I'm not pretending that this is not happening and that people aren't losing their jobs and they're not worried about money and they're not worried about their own safety and their family safety and the loneliness that people are experiencing. So I say lean into that. And again, I write about that in my newsletter. So this is all to say, hey, go to bloggergenius.com and join my newsletter. And I'd really love to welcome you into my community. And then, I read all my emails. And I get back to people immediately. So therefore, please email me because I would love to hear from you. And you can share ideas or thoughts you're having, questions about your business, anything. One thing that I've noticed during this time is the more I can show up and help other online entrepreneurs grow their businesses, the better I feel. Like, it's good for my well-being. So please email me. Okay, so I want to talk about my newest podcast episode. And so I would love it if somebody, please, would try to comment, just because I'm not exactly sure how StreamYard works. So if you're listening, please leave a comment just so I'm learning. Anyway, let's dive in. Okay, so I interviewed my very good friend, Clarita Gerlach, and she is a designer. And she does a lot of design work for me, for Catch My Party and MiloTree. I love what she does for us. Clarita and I really see eye to eye when it comes to creating images, marketing materials, that kind of thing. And I think she's a great thought partner. Those are the kinds of people that you want to attract and hire in your own business. Not just people who will do a task, but people who have thoughts and ideas for you that push you and show you stuff that you might be missing in your own business. So I invited Clarita onto the show to talk about her thoughts on creating successful pins. So this Pinterest came out, maybe now like 6 months ago, maybe longer. And they said, hey, we don't want you just kind of repinning. your content like into new boards, and kind of in a weird way, you can think of it as like spamming your own boards. We want new pins, new content. Now they're not saying new blog posts, but they are saying new pins. So, therefore, some people have realized like, oh, okay, I need to be a Pinterest pin making machine in order to get traffic to my blog. And I would say yes and no. If you are using a tool that's like automatically making pins for you, because there's some AI tools out there and they're okay, but they're not great, I would say it is better for you to be intentional and make fewer pins, but really have the foresight to optimize those pins and make them great. What is a great pin? Is a great pin a pretty pin? And the answer, I love this, is no, according to Clarita. It is that it is successful, that it is working, that it is making people click. If it's a beautiful pin, one thing that happens a lot of times is in different verticals, you'll notice this, like especially in like I notice it in like female verticals, fashion or beauty. A lot of the pins are beautiful, but they look very similar. And so we all want to fit in, especially as women. We love that. But I want to challenge you to think outside the box so that your pins don't look like everybody else's pins, because your job in creating pins is to stop the scroll. So people are coming to Pinterest typically on their phones and they're scrolling and they're busy. They're watching TV. They're taking care of their kids. I don't know if they're cooking, but you know what I'm saying? They have a moment and they're on Pinterest and they've got a problem and they need a solution. Typically, back in the day, I used to go to Pinterest and like look at weirdly like shoes. I don't know. I was obsessed with, I didn't buy them, but I loved looking at them. And I would just scroll through, and my husband, David, who's my partner, like he didn't really get it. He's like, what are you doing? And I would get just sucked in. So there is that quality to Pinterest. It's kind of fun and you can go and you can just kind of scroll forever. But it's very different than Instagram, which is kind of an entity unto itself. And I do think Pinterest, by the way, is trying to move into that direction. So notice that they're coming out with things like story pins and they want people creating on the platform. But Instagram's kind of entertainment. Pinterest is solution-based. People come for a solution. And the way that you win on Pinterest is you're that solution. You're that interesting pin that causes somebody to click over. So how do you design this pin that gets people's attention and stops the scroll? And I would argue, and we're going to go through Clarita's tips, but I would argue it's about specificity and clarity. So the pin's not all mucked up with lots of text. The pin is very specific, so you know exactly what you're going to get by clicking through. So you've been really clear in your messaging. It's not clever, no clever text, clear text, descriptive text. You know, in the podcast episode, we talk about, you know, like you're a food blogger and let's say it's a cheesecake recipe and it's a blueberry cheesecake recipe. Okay, that's something specific. Maybe it's a 5-ingredient blueberry cheesecake recipe. That's even better. Maybe it is a no-bake 5-ingredient cheesecake recipe. Great. And does that seem clear? And can you put that information on the pin so that it's not just a blueberry cheesecake, but it's the easiest blueberry cheesecake or the creamiest, something? Give it some sort of way that as I'm looking, I go, oh, that's the kind of blueberry cheesecake I want, not just any blueberry cheesecake. So here are Clarita, she goes by both. Here are her 5 tips for what makes a good pin. And I thought this was really great, really clear. And the first one is a good image. So a clear image that really shows off what you're trying to convey. Now, if it is something physical, hopefully it's a picture of that. But let's say it's even like a post about parenting. How can you evoke that feeling that you want to convey with your image. Now you can also, and we talk about this in the podcast, you could use a short video and create this, let's say on Canva, and put text on top of it. And not have it as background, to kind of show what you're doing. So think about video or an image, but make sure it's clear, make sure it looks really good, and make sure it's evocative. That if it's a food image or a DIY, or even again, like a post about depression, or that it really gets you and you go, ooh, that's a good photo. Okay. The second thing is to think about that headline that I was talking about. How can you make it specific? How can you make it super duper clear? Not clever. See if you can cut out some words, but really make it evocative. And then when you're designing it, you want, ready for it, clear fonts. So people love to go crazy with fonts. And the argument is always clear is better than swooshy and really wild. Like, make sure somebody can read it, and they're going to be, remember, on their phone, they're going to have 2 images. So you want it to look good on mobile. Be clear so that somebody can go, that's the solution to my problem. We talk about fonts. Okay, so like, let's say you've got your headline, and in it you want your keywords. You want those words that just, because by the way, Pinterest, I got to start. Thank you guys. Pinterest will read the text overlay on your pin. Pinterest is getting all these different signals. The image itself has, you've named this pin before you've uploaded it, either into your blog, into Tailwind, onto Pinterest itself. So don't think that name matters. Put keywords there, put keywords in your boards, put keywords on top of your pin, put keywords in the description. Think very strategically about what board you are pinning this into. Those things all really, really matter. So with your headline, add keywords. And one thing that's interesting, then we started talking about fonts, which I was saying, like very clear fonts. There are serif fonts and sans serif fonts. Sans means without. And those are those little kind of almost like lines on the letters. Like, think about, like, I don't know, the New York Times and that tech. Sans serif is very modern. Serif has more of those little tails, is how I would describe it. And one thing that I thought Claire, because I get messed up when it comes to fonts. I feel like there are so many and I should play with all of them and add them all. And Clara said, be very particular, specific, and use maybe one font. Can you believe that? Just one font, and use it in bold and use it in thin and maybe italics, that kind of thing. Like, do not go crazy with fonts. You want to be clear with fonts, maybe 2 fonts. And if it's 3 fonts, that is by far the most, you don't go beyond 3 fonts. So you want, again, and you want to maybe bold or enlarge in the keywords. So that's when you're making your overlay. Those are the words you want to pop out so that I go, as somebody scrolling, yes, that's the solution. Okay, the next thing you want on your pin, and I didn't do this forever, was an actual call to action. Click here, get more, learn more, find out the tips, whatever it is. You can be a little playful with your call to action. Yep, I want it. Download it, whatever. But here's the thing. People go, well, you don't need a call to action, because on Pinterest, everybody knows that the goal is to click. And I go, yeah, they do. But again, we want to be told what to do. And my hunch is, I don't know this, I'd love to run this test, to have 2 pins that are the exact same pins, except one says click here or click now and one doesn't. Like, do you think that the one that says click here will get more clicks? Personally, I do, because I think that as I'm scrolling and I'm watching television and I'm not, fully focused, that if it says that, on some level, I'm reading that and I am obeying, that I'm following what they're telling me to do. Like, I go, oh, that's an interesting pin. And then on the pin, it says click here. Hey, I'd be more apt to click there. I always say this, which is, you go to a blog and in the nav bar, you're trying to figure out what this blog is. And in the nav bar, it says start here. And I always go, wow, guess what I'm going to do? I start there, because they're telling me start here. So if I say in the pin, click now or start here or get it now or yes, I want it or download or who knows, I just think you are triggering people to take action. And if you're the one who's triggering that and other people aren't, so all these blueberry cheesecake recipes, all are beautiful, but like the one that's going to say take action, chances are I think that will get more action. So do not underestimate the power of a call to action. And by the way, I teach this. Every blog post has to have a call to action. Every blog post has to have, I call them street signs, like pointing, going, do this. Like I'm saying right now, go to bloggergenius.com, sign up for my biggest podcast takeaway cheat sheet right now. I'm telling you, I'm going, hey guys, this you will benefit from. Do it. We'll see. I'm going to see how many people will actually do this and sign up for my list. Again, because I'm testing out StreamYard and seeing, but again, I'm like going, do this. So I want you to be thinking that way when it comes to your blog posts and when it comes to your pins. And then the other thing that Clarita talks about is brand consistency. Meaning if you see Catch My Party pins on Pinterest, and remember we're huge, we have like 1.4 million followers on Pinterest. By the way, we grew that ourselves using MiloTree. Like those are all real followers. Although I guess, I don't know, but they all at some point actively followed us, and we were not one of those early accounts on Pinterest where Pinterest kind of sent a lot of followers your way. We grew this organically using MiloTree. Our pop-up says follow us on Pinterest. People follow us on Pinterest, and it becomes this nice feedback loop, because then people are usually on Pinterest coming to Catch My Party. They see our pop-up that says follow us on Pinterest. They just came from Pinterest. They know we've got good pins. Typically they will follow us. So my point is, if you see a Catch My Party pin, it will say catchmyparty.com always on the bottom. There's consistent fonts. So even though our pins are kind of playful and pretty, they always look like our pins. And that way people start to associate, oh, that's a Catch My Party pin. I'm going to click on it because I know it's going to lead to real good, solid, helpful content on the other side. So think about that. I think that's an incredibly terrific tip. So again, the one thing that Clarita says, and I sometimes don't follow this, is she said, plan your pin out beforehand. Whereas I get in there and I start mucking around, and it kind of like I go, oh no, like, is this good? Or maybe I'll change up the fonts, or I can't quite tell. And I like the way she says, no, think about what image you're going to use. Think about what headline you're going to use. Like, don't get in there to Canva, let's say. And, ooh, the sun got weird. It just got kind of dark. Let's see if I can change this. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, don't just kind of throw it up and see what happens. And that's kind of what I do. So this is the cool thing. And I use these, which are Pinterest templates. So these are different than using like an AI to just design your pins. And in fact, check me out. Okay. Clarita's site is called 5tips.com, and I recommend you go there and you can buy her Pinterest templates, and she sells them as packages of, I think, 12, and they're Canva templates. You just I don't know how they download into Canva, and you don't have to have the paid version of Canva to use these templates, but like she has some for food bloggers and coaches, I think, and different categories. So definitely go to her site, 5tips.co, check them out. They're not very expensive, and it's worth buying a pack to see if they work for you. Now, they work for me because she designed a pack for me for MiloTree. And I love it because I make the images for my blog posts that go along with my podcast episodes. Oh, well, just came back. And therefore, all I do is I go in, I change the image, I change the text. It already has our branding. It already has our fonts. It already has our colors. And I can do a bunch of them in 6 minutes or so. And I don't have to think about it. And I don't have to step back and go, does that look good? Because the one thing that I would say is I say to David all the time, I wish I had gone to design school, because who knew that it would be so valuable. And I know there are these like rules of thumb, and I don't know them. So for me, it's just kind of me going, I don't know. Does this look good? Does this not look good? I don't know. So I recommend starting with templates because they're easy to personalize. Canva saves them, what you just did, and you can start making pins quickly that have all of these things in them, like the call to action. Like you don't have to go, oh, shoot, I got to add a call to action. That button's already there. So you can change the text or the colors or whatever, but like all of those pieces are already there. So you're almost halfway to having a full design just by loading up the template. And I use them every week and I really like them. And it talk about keeping my brand consistent. So if you haven't, and there are other templates you can buy, you can find them on Etsy and other places. Creative Market, I think, has them. But so that you can make pins quickly and then test them. That's the other thing. I can give you all of these tips, and yet who knows which pins of yours will do well. I always think it's like kind of embarrassing that certain pins that I think are awful do really well for us. And then other pins that I think are so beautiful don't necessarily do well. And the only way you know this is by testing them. And what that means is putting them up on Pinterest, being very intentional about your description, about the boards that you're pinning these pins to. So back in the day, you'd pin your pin to like 20 boards. If it was kind of relevant, you're pinning it to that board. Pinterest has come out and said, no, it doesn't work like that anymore. What it says is that first time you take that new pin and you pin it into that board, that's the magic. That's like the money. And so you need to make sure that that board isn't just like blog posts from Jillian, right? That doesn't mean anything. But instead, it needs to be like in my Pinterest board, in my Grow Your Pinterest account board. That's the pin that the pin I created for this podcast episode, that's the board this is going into. So be incredibly intentional. And you better believe in my description, I'm talking about creating pins to be successful, to get traffic and get clicks. And I'm trying to use all of those words so that it attracts, so that I'm solving somebody's problem and that Pinterest can understand what my pin is about. So I definitely recommend, look at me, purchasing some templates. No, they're not expensive, and trying them out and seeing how that works with your process. Okay. So the next thing that I just wanted to share, and Clarita shared this, is when you're doing, I wish somebody had said this to me, when you're doing a blog post and you're taking photos like of a craft or something that has steps, something that has you doing something. So like a recipe, an activity, that kind of thing. Here are some, she says, I recommend these 5 different types of photos. And I thought, oh, this is really good. She recommends the flat lay photo, which is kind of like, think about it from a food blogger, the ingredient photo where things are kind of static and you've got a lot of white space. And those are good because you can put text in the white space. So maybe you actually do it as a flat lay where you're up at top and you've got all the ingredients and all the stuff laid down. Or let's say you're a fashion blogger and you know this, you see those flat lays where you've got all the different items laid out. So that's a flat lay. Then she recommends an action shot. Again, you are doing some sort of craft and you've got the glue gun and you're taking a photo of you using the glue gun. It doesn't, it could be a video, but a photo of an action shot. So you are sticking the glitter on the glue, or you're doing something where it's like active. So people go, oh, there's movement to this. This is something that has energy. That's like the energy photo. And then the next one is kind of the front photo where you've got like the finished product, or even when you're in the midst of it, but it's like that straight on shot. And then so that's the third photo. The fourth photo is going to be a close-up. So if it is a craft, maybe it's like you're doing a paper craft, maybe it's a close-up of the paper. And you can use this then in your pins to use for texture, to put text on. So you really want to capture the feel. So that one is action, and one is feel. This is the feel. So it's the blueberries. It's something that is evocative of an emotion, whether it be, again, think in terms of texture, think in terms of some ingredient, some piece of something. And then the last photo is the contextual photo. So it is the cheesecake on a platter. It is the final craft. Let's say you created a fall pumpkin and now it's on your mantle and you step back and you see it in the context. I thought this was super valuable to have these different photos because I have a tendency to want to take the same photo all the time. And then if I feel like it's working, I take even more of that specific photo. And now I'm like, no, in my mind, I've got these 5 photos and I need to make sure I hit all of them. One thing I want to talk about is video pins. And yes, you should explore video pins. Now, video pins don't get you, they get engagement. People like to watch them. They don't necessarily get you clicks. So if it were a choice between creating static pins, creating video pins, and you're looking for traffic, I would recommend more static pins than video pins. However, it's something to think about. It's something to explore. Again, in Canva, in a template, what you can do is add a video clip behind your overlays and things to make it easy. So you don't have to have multiple cuts. It doesn't have to be like some sort of major tutorial. If you have video content and there's a way for you to make it work on Pinterest, and remember, nobody's listening on Pinterest. They're just reading text overlays. So if it's you speaking, like this is not going to work on Pinterest, and they want them either square or portrait. So this is landscape. So forget this. This is not going up on Pinterest. But if there's a way for you to experiment and see, does it work for you? Is it helping grow engagement? Is it helping get eyeballs? My hunch is, I do not know this, but I think if you are adding video pins, Pinterest takes that into account, probably likes your page a little bit more. Maybe your other pins are going to get some more attention. I do not know if that is true. If I were designing the Pinterest algorithm, I'd probably put that in. Same thing with story pins. So to be honest with you, I have not created one story pin. It's on my list to do and it keeps getting pushed down. I will do it and see. But again, I'm not seeing the same ROI that I do with a static pin because I want traffic. I want traffic to Milo Tree. I want traffic to catch my party. That's really what I'm looking for with Pinterest. So if you're doing story pins and having tremendous success, please reach out to me. I'd love to put you on the podcast. Reach out at Jillian@milotree.com. And then the final thing I wanted to share that I thought was genius is that Clarita said, once you've created a pin, to squint, to look at it with squinted eyes and see if it all makes sense to you. If you can capture what this pin is about, what the goal is of this pin, what somebody's going to get from this pin, and it all makes sense, that is the great kind of end final test. So use that. And in fact, I've heard that in other things, kind of like with your outfit too, just kind of squint and go, does this all work? Because it gives you just like, again, a feeling of does this work all together? Like maybe certain elements are good, but then you see it all together and it's like, something's not right. Use that with your own pins. Like it kind of empowers you. And the question that I always ask Clarita is, do I need to be a designer to design good? Oh my God. Okay. Okay. So this is, thank you. I tried the squint test. It works. Awesome. Okay. So all I'm seeing, this is cool, on StreamYard is it says Facebook user. So whoever posted that comment, would you go to, I think there should be instructions somewhere on this video so that I can see who you are. If not, I think you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and somehow it will allow me to see who you are. But I'm so glad you tried the squint test. And did you try it with designing pins or were you using it in some other place? In fact, I've used it in my own home because we just got a new chair and I wasn't sure where to put the chair. And I kind of looked at my living room because I'm so used to looking at my living room that I kind of squinted to go like, does it work here? And it did. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Like the whole room kind of came together. So I think it's good. And I am going to use it when I get dressed, although now it doesn't seem to matter when, I'm not going anywhere. So, but I just think that is a great tip from Clarita. So her thing is, you don't have to be a designer to design great pins. And remember, great pins are not necessarily pretty pins. They are effective, evocative pins that get people to click. And you start to learn what your audience responds to. However, I say take everything with a grain of salt, because let's say you use certain colors and people really love that pin and you try it in another pin and it doesn't necessarily work. It might not, it depends, because all of your content's different seasons. There are a lot of elements that go into this, but definitely be testing, because you think every time I think I know that something's going to be like a huge hit, I would say sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. And there's something about being an online entrepreneur that's very humbling, because you don't know. And you think you should, because you think you should be an expert and you think you know what your audience wants from you. And the truth is, a lot of times you don't know. So you have to continually test, which is why I recommend creating pins that really, that have a lot of, I use this word, I feel like in every Facebook Live, a lot of intentionality. Really think it through. So rather than throw a bunch of pins up there, hoping, like kind of throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, if you put a little bit more intention behind the pin of what is my call to action, what are my keywords I'm going after, what problem am I solving with this, which picture really is the most evocative, the most emotional, that's what I would say. If I've really given it that much thought, chances are I'm going to do better than just kind of throwing, some stuff up. So I want to see. Okay, so I think I've covered everything. And thank you for those of you who have watched this and stayed with me. I'm putting this back up, which is sign up for my 4 biggest podcast takeaways. It's a cheat sheet at bloggergenius.com. I'd love you to be part of this community. And thank you for being part of this Facebook group. If you're not, oh, by the way, I should say that. Join my Facebook group if you're watching this on one of these other channels. And it's the Milo Tree, and I changed the name and I made it kind of long. I think it's Milo Tree Mastermind. No, I think it is Blogger Genius Milo Tree Mastermind, but I just changed it. It was Milo Tree Mastermind group. And then I thought, no, I want people to kind of put together Blogger Genius with this. So I added it to the title. But in the next StreamYard I'm going to add that. So please, if you're watching this, say, on YouTube, please join my Facebook group, sign up for my list. I think it is the one thing that's really nice is female bloggers are really nice. And I love my community and the people that have been drawn to this. Because you guys are just so awesome and so supportive and so sharing and generous and helpful. And I couldn't do this without you guys. So that's what I wanted to say. And one last thing, and then I'm done. I'm thinking of starting another 6-week coaching group starting November 4th. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. So if you're interested in doing that, and what that means is it's a group of usually like 10 entrepreneurs. We show up live on Zoom twice a week. David is a part of this too. He co-leads it with me. And what's great about that is he's like the technical genius and he has really just sweet energy if you've watched him. And we walk you through growing your business in real time. So I give you homework assignments that you hand in to me. I go through them. I give you feedback. David gives you feedback. So you're going to be doing all the things you would be doing to grow your blog, like writing blog posts and optimizing your site and all the stuff, but with guidance. So each week you are learning about a different topic and then putting it into practice and then getting feedback. And then we show up once a week for a workshop, like a teaching session, and once a week for a Q&A session live on Zoom. And what's really cool is that the group starts to kind of come together and support each other. And usually people are in different verticals. However, they have it's like relevant for other people in other verticals. And I see it because people will be in different verticals and they'll all be doing the same thing. Like they'll all not be, say, putting themselves forward, or they'll not be, who knows? And I'll be like, hey guys, have you noticed that you're kind of thinking about this way? And so I see these things where, which I can point out, where people are kind of doing things that are very specific to their verticals, but also doing things that like across the board. And it's really fun. And I feel like, especially as we head into the holidays and we're not going anywhere and we're not seeing family, that I thought I'd want to show up with a group and be hopefully helpful, help you grow your business during this really weird time. It's good, as I say, it's good for my well-being. So if you're interested, please reach out and email me or message me on Facebook, email me at Jillian@milotree.com and say, I'd be interested. I'm not going to hold you to it, but I just want to know if people would find that interesting to show up from November into December. I'm going to take the week of Thanksgiving. We take that off. And it would go to like mid-December before the holidays and stuff. But if that's interesting to you, to have a group to be accountable to and to have direct feedback from David and me, email me, let me know. All right. That's all I wanted to say. I will be back. So I'm going live on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Time. So please, 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 I'd love you to come back next week. All right. Have a great start to your week, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.